Let's talk about the fifth chapter, strategies for governing newly acquired states. Niccolo Machiavelli in The Prince, he provides a pragmatic and often ruthless approach to governance, particularly when dealing with the newly acquired territories. In chapter number 5, he examines the difficulties rulers face when attempting to govern states that were previously free. His insights are timeless. They offer lessons that apply not only to political conquest but also to modern governance, modern corporate restructuring, and even global diplomacy. The three strategies for control. Machiavelli, he outlines three primary methods for maintaining control over newly acquired states. One is destruction, second one is occupation, and third one is autonomy with the tribute. Destruction is completely dismantling existing political, social, and military institutions to remove any possibility of rebellion. While second one, occupation, it is establishing a permanent presence through direct rule, enforcing authority through military and administrative control. And coming to third one, autonomy with tribute, allowing the states to maintain its laws and traditions while imposing taxes and installing a loyal oligarchy to rule the conqueror's interests. Each strategy has its own merits and drawbacks, but Machiavelli strongly argues that destruction is often the most reliable approach. By eliminating former ruling classes, traditions, and institutions, the conqueror, he ensures that there is no foundation upon which rebellion can be built. Let's see the logic of destruction. It is the most secure path to power. Machiavelli's preference for destruction, it stems from his understanding of human nature. People who have tasted freedom, they will never forget it, and their desire to reclaim it, it can lead to endless cycles of rebellion and resistance. Endless cycles of rebellion and resistance. A ruler who merely imposes new laws while allowing old institutions to persist, he may find himself constantly dealing with uprising. So, let's see Machiavelli's destruction as a strategy. Let's explore it. Lessons from Carthage. Lessons from Carthage to modern warfare. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master strategist of power, he believed that destruction is sometimes the most secure path to dominance. He argued that a ruler who merely imposes new laws without completely erasing old institutions, he risks endless rebellions. This principle finds its most striking historical example in the destruction of Carthage. Let's see the Machiavelli's destruction as a strategy. Lessons from Carthage. Lessons from Carthage to modern warfare. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master strategist of power, he believed that destruction is sometimes the most secure path to dominance. He argued that a ruler who merely imposes new laws without completely erasing old institutions, he risks endless rebellions. These principles finds its most striking historical example in the destruction of Carthage by Rome in 146 BC. It echoes throughout history in events like firebombing of Dresden and the nuclear attack on Hiroshima in World War II, the Mongol invasions of the 13th century, and genocides like those in Armenia in 1915 and Rwanda in 1994. All these examples could show us how total destruction has been used as a means of securing power, eliminating threats, and reshaping history. Carthage is the model of total annihilation. The city of Carthage, once a thriving superpower which posed a formidable challenge to Rome. After 3 brutal Punic wars, Rome decided that Carthage must not only be defeated but erased from existence. In 146 BC, Roman forces breached the city's walls. They massacred over 150,000 people, enslaved 50,000 survivors, burned the city for 17 days, and allegedly they salted the land to prevent future habitation. A defeated enemy that retains its institutions, culture, and it will resist. It can always rise again. By obliterating Carthage, Rome secured its supremacy for centuries. Fast forward to the 20th century, and Machiavelli's logic of destruction it resurfaces in the devastation of Dresden and Hiroshima. In February 1945, Allied forces firebombed Dresden, a cultural hub of Germany. It killed between 25,000 to 35,000 civilians. It reduced the city to ashes. The justification? To break the enemy spirit and hasten the end of World War II. Even more shocking was the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The United States seeking to force Japan's unconditional surrender. The US dropped nuclear bombs, instantly killing over 140,000 in Hiroshima and 70,000 civilians in Nagasaki. With tens of thousands, they are suffering from radiation exposure. The logic was clear: total destruction. It would end the war and prevent future resistance. Moreover, the forces created a fear of total destruction. Not total destruction, but a fear of total destruction in Japan, using psychological warfare to break the nation's resolve. The United States hurled 2 nuclear bombs to prove they were ready to go for more, reinforcing the notion that further resistance would lead to absolute annihilation of Japan. Whether justified or not, these bombings they serve as modern echoes of Carthage's fate. If Carthage, its destruction was strategic, the Mongols' annihilation of Baghdad in 1258, it was an example of sheer terror as a political tool. The Mongols, led by Hulagu Khan, razed Baghdad in the center of Islamic civilization, killing around 1 million people in a single week. The great libraries of Baghdad, including the House of Wisdom, they were burned, and the Tigris River, it ran black with the ink from destroyed manuscripts. Why such brutality? Because it sent a message. This brutality sent a message: surrender or face complete annihilation. While Carthage, Hiroshima, and Baghdad, they were acts of military destruction. The Armenian genocide of 1915 and the Rwanda genocide of 1994, it shows how destruction has been used against the entire population. In 1915, the Ottoman Empire, it systematically exterminated 1.5 million Armenians, fearing their loyalty to Russia and their cultural identity. In 1994, Hutu extremists in Rwanda, they massacred 800,000 Tutsis in 100 days, seeking to erase their existence from the country. Both the genocides, they reflect Machiavelli's warning. When rulers see a group as a permanent threat, they may attempt total destruction rather than risk rebellion. Let's talk about the Machiavellian's dilemma about this destruction. Can destruction ever be justified? History shows that destruction can secure power, but it also raises ethical questions. Rome eliminated Carthage and ruled the Mediterranean, but necessary. The atomic bomb, it ended Second World War. But at what moral cost? The Mongols, they used terror to expand their empire. But did they kill more than necessary? The same dilemma, it haunts us today. Machiavelli might argue that destruction works when it is total, leaving no room for revenge or resistance. However, history also teaches that destruction can breed future conflicts. Hiroshima led to the nuclear arms race. Baghdad's fall, it weakened Islamic civilization for centuries. And the Armenian and Rwandan genocide, they left scars that remain even today. Destruction as a strategy has shaped world history from Carthage to modern wars. Machiavelli's principle of total destruction, it has been applied time and again, proving its effectiveness in securing power. But we must think that it is a path to lasting peace. Is it a path to lasting peace or just a cycle of endless violence? As we look at history, we must ask, is true power built on destruction or on rebuilding what was once torn down? Let peace be prevailed instead of this total destruction. Modern democracies, unlike the empires of the past, they may not engage in large-scale destruction, but the principle, they remain visible in business and politics in present scenario. Let's see the next approach, occupation. Second approach. It is a costly but viable alternative. When a ruler takes over new land, they must find a way to stand in power. Destroying everything is one option, but it is extreme. The next best approach is occupation. By placing a ruler or a military force within the conquered land, the ruler can enforce control and prevent rebellion. This strategy works, but it comes with a heavy price. It demands constant effort. It demands constant resources. It demands constant attention. It is like holding a wild animal on a leash. You must stay alert at all times or it will break free. If we take the example, the British, they ruled India from 1757 to 1947 using this method. They came as traders but soon turned into rulers. They placed their military, built a strong administration and made sure they controlled every important decision. But they made a mistake. They did not destroy local traditions, nor did they fully absorb into Indian society, into their own systems. They left Indian kings in power in some places. They allowed local customs to survive, and they thought they could rule forever by balancing control with cooperation. But that balance was unstable. When people still hold on to their identity, they do not forget who they are. They wait, they resist, they rise. That is exactly what happened in India. The British faced revolts, protests, and movements. The more they tried to tighten their grip on India, the more Indians fought back. The 1857 revolt, it shook their rule, but they suppressed it with force. However, they could not stop the fire of freedom. The Indian National Congress, their movements led by leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, and the demand for self-rule, it kept growing stronger. By the early 20th century, occupation became too costly for the British. It drained their economy, it weakened their power, and it made them question if they could hold on any longer. In the end, they had to leave India. Machiavelli understood this long before it happened. He warned that if a ruler does not completely destroy or fully absorb a conquered state, rebellion is inevitable. He knew that partial control is dangerous because it gives hope to the people who want their freedom. The British gave Indians enough space to remember who they were. And that memory led to independence. Occupation is like trying to control a river by building a dam. You may hold the water for a while, but if you do not manage it properly, it will break through with unstoppable force. The British did not see the cracks of forming in their rule. They thought they were unshakable, but history had other plans. The lesson is clear. If you wish to rule over people, you must either erase their past completely or become one of them. Anything in between, it will eventually fail because the human spirit does not surrender easily. After World War II, the US chose occupation of Japan rather than destruction. By maintaining control through military governance and political restructuring, the US transformed Japan into a stable democracy while preventing resurgence of militarism. If you take modern corporates, when a company acquires another, the new leadership often installs executives to enforce new policies while retaining much of the workforce. This allows for gradual integration rather than outright destruction. Autonomy with the tribute, it is a risky balancing act. Machiavelli's third strategy is to allow a state to retain its laws while installing a loyal governing body and imposing taxes. This approach is effective when dealing with a region that have strong cultural identities but lack military strength to resist. Historical and modern examples of this approach would be the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman empires, it ruled vast territories through a system of local governance. As long as regions paid tribute and remained loyal, they could maintain their laws and traditions. This method reduced administrative burdens but carried the risk of rebellion. And coming to the British Commonwealth, many former British colonies, they retain autonomy while recognizing the British monarchy as a ceremonial figure. This arrangement, it maintains cultural ties without direct control. Franchise business model. In the corporate world, the companies like McDonald's, they allow franchises to operate independently while paying royalty. The central corporation, it benefits financially without managing day-to-day operations. Now, let's consider why some leaders fail. Why some leaders fail to secure their power. Machiavelli warns that rulers who hesitate or who compromise too much, they risk failure. He cites examples of leaders who fail to consolidate power because they underestimated the resilience of world structures. The fall of the Weimar Republic in 1933. The democratic government of Germany, it failed to eliminate remnants of imperial influence, allowing the Nazis to rise. If you see the Arab Spring in 2010s, many regimes, they collapsed because leaders neither reformed nor eliminated opposition decisively. Partial measures, they often led to prolonged instability. Machiavelli's insights, they remain relevant in today's world, whether in politics, business, or social movements. Leaders who acquire power, they must decide whether to destroy, whether to occupy, or whether to allow autonomy with tribute. While destruction provides security, it requires immense brutality. Occupation ensures control, but is costly and it is difficult. Now let's turn to chapter number 6. The role of personal virtue in leadership. Niccolo Machiavelli, in chapter number 6 of The Prince, he presents a profound argument regarding the role of personal virtue in leadership. He distinguished leaders who rise to power through their own abilities from those who achieve it through fortune or external factors. Machiavelli's discussion, it revolves around the necessity of vision, decisive action, and the implementation of innovative reforms. His insights remain relevant even today, influencing political leaders, influencing business moguls, and influencing strategies. Machiavelli cites four significant historical figures: Moses, Cyrus, Romulus, and Theseus, exemplary leaders who carved their destinies through their own prowess. Each of these individuals, rather than inheriting power, they demonstrated extraordinary leadership by recognizing and seizing opportunities. If we take the example of Moses, a biblical figure who led the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses is often associated with divine intervention. However, Machiavelli emphasizes his personal virtues, particularly his ability to command authority, it established laws, and consolidate power. Moses succeeded not merely because of divine support, but because of his capacity to inspire obedience and create a lasting order. Then we'll see the second person, that is Cyrus the Great, founder of the Persian Empire. Cyrus demonstrated immense strategic prowess. He united various tribes and conquered vast territories, not through chance, but by implementing pragmatic policies and fostering loyalty among his subjects. His ability to blend diplomacy with military strength, it made him a revered ruler. Then we have Romulus. Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome. Romulus, he exemplified necessity of bold and sometimes ruthless action in state building by eliminating his own brother and asserting dominance. Romulus ensured that survival and strength of Rome, laying the foundation for one of history's greatest empires. Then Theseus, known for his exploits in Greek mythology, Theseus represents the power of ingenuity. He recognized Athens, centralizing authority and creating stability in a fragmented society. His leadership, it underscores the importance of reforming existing structures to maintain control. These leaders shared three fundamental traits. Foresight, first one. Foresight, second one, decisiveness, and third one, adaptability. They did not passively wait for fortune to favor them. Instead, they actively shaped their destinies through virtue. The core tenets of the Machiavellian leadership. The number one quality, visionary leadership, recognizing and seizing opportunity. Machiavelli argues that successful rulers, they possess an acute ability to recognize opportunities that others overlook. Leadership is not about waiting for the right moment, but it is about creating the right moment. This requires a deep understanding of human nature. It requires political dynamics, and it requires the deep understanding of socio-economic landscape. For instance, Alexander the Great, he demonstrated an unparalleled capacity to perceive and exploit the opportunity. He identified weaknesses in enemy formations. He devised innovative military strategies, and he forged alliances to consolidate power. His ability to think ahead, it gave him a significant advantage over his adversary. Similarly, in the modern business world, if you see Steve Jobs, he epitomized visionary leadership. He foresaw the potential of personal computing and revolutionized the industry by introducing groundbreaking products like the iPhone and Mac. His success, his success was not a result of luck, but of his capacity to recognize future. It trends and act decisively. Let's talk about the next step. Decisive action, swift and bold measures we talk about. Machiavelli, he asserts that hesitation can be fatal in leadership. A leader must act boldly and swiftly to achieve objectives, even if such actions invite opposition. In decisiveness, it creates opportunities for rivals to exploit weakness. Julius Caesar, he exemplifies this principle. His crossing of the Rubicon in 49 BC, it was a calculated risk that led to his ultimate control of Rome. Rather than hesitating, he seized the moment, demonstrating his resolve and political acumen. Franklin D. Roosevelt, his response to the Great Depression, it highlights his decisive leadership. His implementation of the New Deal, despite facing resistance, it transformed the American economy. Leaders who act with conviction, they inspire confidence and command. Go ahead. Now let's check the number 3, innovative reforms, restructuring for stability. A leader cannot merely inherit or conquer power. They must reform societal structures to solidify their rule. Machiavelli stresses that newly acquired territories, they must undergo systematic changes to align with the ruler's vision. Napoleon Bonaparte exemplifies this principle. After rising to power, he introduced the Napoleonic Code, revolutionizing legal systems across Europe. Napoleon's reforms, though sometimes authoritarian, but his reforms created order and efficiency. A corporate parallel we can see in Elon Musk, whose radical innovations in electric vehicles and space exploration, it disrupted industries. By challenging conventional norms and pushing for technological advancements, Elon Musk reshaped market dynamics. Then we'll talk about the role of fortune versus personal capability. The role of fortune versus personal capability. Machiavelli acknowledges that fortune it plays a role in leadership, but insists that sustained success depends on personal ability. He uses the metaphor of fortune as in raising river that, well, unpredictable, raising river is unpredictable, but it can be controlled through preparation and through strategic action. For example, Winston Churchill's leadership during the World War II, it was a blend of fortune and blend of capability. While external circumstances necessitated strong leadership, Churchill's resilience, work skills, and strategic decisions, they ultimately determined the course of history. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent movement, it succeeded not because of mere luck, but because of his unwavering determination and tactical brilliance. Gandhi's ability to mobilize millions, challenge colonial rule, and adapt to changing circumstances, it underscores Machiavelli's principles that true leaders, they shape their fate. True leaders shape their fate. Modern implications of Machiavellian's leadership, Machiavelli's insights, they are applicable beyond politics. They belong to business, we can see in sports, and we can see in social movements. Leaders who exhibit vision, decisiveness, and adaptability, they achieve long-term success. And we'll see the business leadership. Jeff Bezos, he transformed e-commerce through relentless innovation. His willingness to take risks, invest in technology, and expand Amazon's reach, it exemplified Machiavellian's leadership. If we see sports leadership, Michael Jordan, His dominance in basketball, it was not just talent, but unyielding work ethic, strategic mindset, and competitive spirit. His leadership inspired his teammates and set new standards for excellence. Niccolo Machiavelli, in chapter number 7 of The Prince, he provides an incisive analysis of how rulers gain and sustain power, particularly when that power is acquired through fortune or external support. He uses the case of Cesare Borgia as a prime example of both the advantages and pitfalls of such a rise. Through this case study, Machiavelli lays out key principles that remain crucial for any leaders, whether in politics, business, or any other domain, who seeks to maintain authority and avoid downfall. Let's see. The fragility of power. The fragility of power bestowed by others. Let's talk about this. One of Machiavelli's core assertion is that power attained through fortune or external influence is inherently unstable unless the individual possessing it takes swift and decisive action to secure it independently. Cesare Borgia, the son of Pope Alexander VI, he rose to power largely due to his father's influence. However, Borgia understood that such a foundation was precarious. He recognized that his survival and success depended not on his father's continued patronage, but on his own ability to consolidate and maintain power. So let's see lesson number 1. Strategic alliance and their double-edged nature. Strategic alliance can be a powerful tool in gaining influence. However, Machiavelli warns that leaders must be wary of over-dependence on any single ally. Borgia's initial strength came from his father's position. It came from his father's position, but he actively worked to expand his own power base through calculated relationships and military campaigns. He used mercenaries, manipulated political factions, and sought to neutralize any rival forces. However, once his father died, the fragility of his position it became apparent, and his enemies they swiftly moved against him. It illustrates that while alliances can provide an initial boost, long-term security comes from creating an independent foundation. Consider modern day politics. If you see, many leaders rise to power through endorsements, political backing, or corporate support. However, those who fail to establish their own credibility and personal influence, that they often fall quickly once their external patrons they withdraw their support. Historical examples they include figures like Mikhail Gorbachev. Gorbachev, whose authority diminished when he could no longer rely on the Communist Party support, or CEOs who lose favor with board members and they are simply removed despite their past. Let's see the lesson number 2. Adaptability. A leader's most crucial skill, adaptability. Machiavelli underscores the importance of adaptability in leadership. He describes how Borgia, recognizing the volatility of his position, he attempted to shift strategies as circumstances changed. When he realized that reliance on mercenaries it was vulnerable, he replaced them with his own royal force. He also sought to gain favor with the local population by appeasing and appearing as a just and a capable ruler. The broader lesson here is that leaders must constantly assess their environment and pivot when necessary. The political landscape is ever changing, and those who rigidly adhere to outdated methods, they often find themselves outmanned. principle is evident in corporate strategy as well. Business leaders who fail to adapt to market shifts, technological advancements, and consumer behavior, it changes often see their companies decline. For example, blockbuster video once a dominant force in the home entertainment industry. It failed. It failed to adapt to the digital streaming revolution, allowing Netflix to overtake. Similarly, in politics, leaders who fail to adjust their rhetoric or policies in response to shifting public sentiment often lose elections. Let's see the lesson number 3. Decisive, ruthless. Decisive, ruthless. The necessity of hard choice. Let's talk about it. Machiavelli's philosophy is often associated with a cold pragmatism, and this chapter provides a clear justification for that reputation. He argues that leaders must be willing to make difficult and even ruthless decisions when necessary. In the case of Borgia demonstrated this through his treatment of potential threats. He eliminated rivals. Borgia eliminated rivals. He controlled rebellious factions, and he took preemptive measures against those who might oppose him. While this approach may seem harsh, Machiavelli's point is that indecisiveness and leniency, it can be more dangerous in the long run. Weak leaders who hesitate to take action, they often invite chaos. They allow their enemies to regroup and strike back. In contrast, leaders who swiftly, decisively remove threats, they can establish stability. They can command respect. Consider Abraham Lincoln's decision during the American Civil War. While known for his moral leadership, Lincoln did not hesitate to suspend habeas corpus and take controversial military action to preserve the Union. Similarly, in business, Steve Jobs, he was known for making tough decisions, cutting projects, firing employees who underperformed, and fiercely controlling Apple's vision to ensure the company's success. Then let's talk about the modern implications of Machiavelli's lessons. Modern implications. Lessons for today's leaders. Machiavelli's insights, they remain relevant in modern times, not just in politics, but also in corporate and personal leadership. Power is rarely stable unless actively reinforced. Leaders must build independent credibility and not rely solely on external support. They must adapt to shifting circumstances to stay ahead of competitors. They must make hard decisions when necessary to secure their position. Those who rise through corrections, endorsements, or luck, but fail to reinforce their authority often, they meet a swift downfall. This principle is evident in the case of any politician, business executives, and even celebrities who fail to transition from being supported figures to independent forces. Machiavelli's discussion of Borgia, it serves as both a cautionary tale and a guide for effective leadership. Fortune may open doors, but only skill and strategy it can keep them open. Leaders must recognize that while external support can be an advantage, true power comes from personal capability and foresight. Those who understand this balance, they will be best positioned to navigate the complexities of power, whether in governance, whether in business, or any sphere of influence. In this way, the lesson from the Prince, it remains timeless. It remains timeless. Never rely entirely on the power given to you by others. Cultivate your own power. Secure your own position and always be prepared to act decisively when the moment demands it. Now, let's turn to chapter number 8. In this session, this chapter is going to. Let's on to chapter number 8, the ethics and the efficacy of cruelty in leadership. Machiavelli's The Prince, it remains one of the most controversial and enduring treatises on power and leadership. The chapter 8, it explores the ethical and practical dimensions of cruelty in leadership. It offers profound insights into how rulers can utilize force effectively while maintaining stability and legitimacy. Chapter 8, it explores the ethical and practical dimensions of cruelty in leadership. It offers profound insights into how rulers can utilize force effectively while maintaining stability and legitimacy. Here you can see the dual nature of cruelty. Machiavelli makes a critical distinction between two types of cruelty: well-utilized cruelty. Well-utilized cruelty. This involves acts of harshness that are executed swiftly, decisively, and out of necessity. Such cruelty is limited to a specific period and is designed to establish order. It eliminates immediate threats. It paves the way for long-term stability. Once the leader has secured power, further cruelty is unnecessary, and policies should swift toward governance and public welfare. Then, abused cruelty. This refers to ongoing, excessive, and arbitrary violence that serves no greater purpose except to instill fear in people. Leaders who engage in relentless cruelty, they create resentment, leading to instability, revolts, and their eventual downfall. Machiavelli argues that while cruelty is often a necessary tool in leadership, it must be measured, it must be rational, and it must be purposeful rather than gratuitous. Leaders who misuse cruelty, they risk alienating their subjects and losing control over their dominion. Let's talk about a case study. Machiavelli, he presents that case study. He presents Agathocles of Syracuse. Agathocles of Syracuse as a key example of a leader who rose to power through ruthless means. Agathocles, a low-born soldier, he seized control of Syracuse by orchestrating a brutal massacre of the ruling elites. However, unlike leaders who descend into unchecked brutality, Agathocles stabilized his rule and created a strong state. Machiavelli does not celebrate Agathocles as a virtuous leader, but he acknowledged the effectiveness of his methods. The key takeaway is that political violence, when used judiciously and in pursuit of stability, it can lead to successful governance. However, excessive cruelty, devoid of a long-term strategy, it breeds only chaos. Here, fear versus love. The leadership dilemma. One of the most famous themes in The Prince is Machiavelli's assertion that it is better for a leader to be feared than loved, as we discussed it in numerous times. If one must choose. He explains that human nature is fickle. People may claim loyalty out of love, but when adversity strikes, they abandon their leaders. Fear, on the other hand, it is a more reliable tool because it instills caution, it instills obedience. Machiavelli warns against outright hatred. A ruler who is feared but not hated can maintain control. The moment cruelty becomes excessive, irrational, or unnecessarily humiliating, the leader is inviting rebellion. The leader is inviting rebellion. Let's take the example of Julius Caesar. He wielded power through strategic force, strategic intelligence, and calculated mercy. His clemency toward defeated enemies, it combined with military strength, it made him respected, and to some extent, he was loved. However, his leniency also made him vulnerable, leading to his assassination. If we take Gaius Caligula, unlike Caesar, Caligula ruled through sadistic cruelty, paranoia, and humiliation. He executed senators arbitrarily, declared himself a god, and indulged in extravagant display of power. His reign ended in his assassination because he turned his fear-based rule into terror and humiliation. This contrast, it reinforces Machiavelli's lesson. Fear can be a useful tool, but once it crosses into hatred, the leader's downfall is inevitable. Modern implications of Machiavelli's theory, Machiavelli's insights, they are not limited to the Renaissance era. Modern political and corporates, these readers, they still navigate the delicate balance of power, control, and authority. If we take lessons, Lee Kuan Yew's his leadership in Singapore. Singapore's first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, he is an example of a leader who applied Machiavellian principle effectively. Under his leadership in Singapore, Singapore transformed from a struggling post-colonial nation into a global economical powerhouse. Lee imposed strict laws, silenced opposition, and employed authoritarian measures to maintain order. However, he did not wield cruelty for personal gratification. His actions were calculated. Once stability was achieved, his governance shifted towards national progress. Unlike dictators who rule through fear alone, Lee ensured his people's prosperity, legitimizing his leadership. Let us take the second example, Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. Lessons in abused cruelty. Unlike Lee in Singapore, Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, they ruled through arbitrary cruelty. They ruled through paranoia. They ruled through continuous repression. They eliminated perceived threats indiscriminately. They silenced opposition through terror and never established a transition from force to stability. Both leaders, they met violent ends, reinforcing Machiavelli's warning that leaders who misuse cruelty, they will eventually be destroyed. And let's see some insights for modern day leaders from this Machiavellian analysis. Modern leaders, whether in politics or in business or military, wherever, they can derive several crucial lessons. First of all, pragmatism over idealism. Effective leadership, it requires making tough decisions. Leaders should be guided by realism rather than idealistic notions that ignore human nature. Strategic use of force. Harsh measures, they may be necessary at times, but they must be applied rationally, swiftly, and with a clear purpose. Balance between fear and respect. Leaders should cultivate respect, but also ensure they command enough authority to prevent rebellion and eliminate threats eventually. When consolidating power, it is crucial to neutralize threats quickly rather than prolonging conflicts that foster instability. Critics argue that Machiavelli's teachings, they promote immorality and they justify unethical actions. However, a deeper analysis, it suggests that The Prince is not a moral guidebook, but a pragmatic manual on power. Machiavelli does not encourage cruelty for its own sake. Rather, he acknowledges that power often requires difficult choices. Leaders who refuse to make hard decisions, they risk being overtaken by those who will. His philosophy is not about endorsing evil, but understanding that morality in politics is complex and that leaders must navigate it very carefully. Then finally, the timeless relevance of Machiavelli's insights, his insights into the ethics and efficacy of cruelty, it remained relevant across the centuries. The world has seen leaders, who wield power effectively and those who succumb to their own excess. The central message is clear. Power is neither inherently good nor evil. Power is a tool and its effectiveness depends on the wielder. Modern leaders, they must understand that force and pragmatism, they have their place, but they must be exercised with wisdom and restraint. Those who master this balance, they can create stability, they can create progress, and they can create enduring legacies. Those who fail will inevitably be overthrown by those who do. Machiavelli's greatest lesson is this: power is never given freely. It must be taken. It must be taken. Power must be used wisely, tempered with strategic foresight. Power must be tempered with strategic foresight. Leaders who internalize these lessons, they will not only survive but thrive in the ever-changing political and social landscape of the world. Thank you.